I don't know where to clip this thing. Okay. This is probably going to be terrible, but we're going to try. It is hot. Step one. Let's see. I think this thing still records if I put it in. If I put it in sleep mode, yeah, it still records. Okay. I just gotta make sure I don't bump the dingle dongle. Okay. Hotter than Hades out here. I'm gonna check on the old. Maybe if I clip it this way. Maybe like that. Okay. It is hotter than Hades out here. And what I want to do is go find a shovel. Step one is to go find a shovel. Because I want to try to. I don't want to try to do. Step one, don't get stung. Step two. What is step two? Oh, I want to try to get some pots ready to plant some things. I've been putting it off for a long time. Probably too long. We should have done this like a month ago. I need to find a shovel that I want. Do we want a flimsy shovel or a strong shovel? I think we kind of want a strong shovel. Okay. Try not to get stung. So I was thinking is getting the dirt, putting the dirt into some kind of, oh yeah, that's right. I'm going to put the dirt into pots. And then what I'm going to do is start moving the compost into the bigger pots, and start moving the dirt into the smaller pots. And hope that nobody notices that I'm talking to myself. There's nobody around me. Actually, step one should probably be checking the mouse trap. I'm pretty sure it's a rat. Or just a gigantic mouse. I don't think I caught it last night. Anybody in the trap? I don't see anybody in the trap. Okay. I didn't catch it last night. Good Lord, it's hot out here. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to do this. Okay, so I was thinking my mom was gracious enough to bring me a bunch of these little pots. I think these are like 2 gallon. 2 gallon or 3 gallon. The problem is they're like really narrow. Really narrow. This is probably going to be loud. Some of you, well, like 1 or 2 of you, might remember. Ugh. I tried to do this in the past once, but like it was too loud and people got all pissy, even though literally like the first couple things I said in the chat were like, hey, by the way, I'm recording while I'm working on my garage. This was like 2 years ago. It's like, hey, I'm working on my garage. And people are like, hey, it sounds like you're working on your garage. I'm like, I know, I said I was working on my garage. And I tried that like 2 different times and then just gave up because people lack, even my best friends, and you know who you are. It's like sometimes you guys lack very, very basic understanding when I say something. How's the tree look? That tree does not have a lot of leaves left. But it's too hot to transplant. So I'm going to be digging out this really nice dirt. And then I'm going to put in the compost, I think. I don't know. I have a ton of potatoes to plant, and I have a ton of tomatoes to plant. It's probably too late, but I'm not sure. And the fact that my neighbor's still working like crazy tells me that there must still be time left. Potatoes are kind of a weird deal. Here in the Pacific Northwest, you can almost do potatoes year round. You just never, man, good lord, there's just so many wasps. What was I doing? Oh yeah, the compost. So what I've been doing with the compost is I've been doing the, I don't know, I'm calling it wet compost. I'm doing the wet compost first, which is like, oh, it smells really bad. It is so hot, and this compost has been cooking. You can't imagine how disgusting this is. I'm doing the wet compost first, so like the eggs and stuff, and then I do the dry compost over that, which is it's not really dry. It's the bread and, or wait, no, sorry. Oh, that smells just awful. Coffee grounds. Yeah. So I do the eggs, and then I do the coffee grounds on top of the eggs, and that keeps the smell down, and it keeps the bugs down. I regret. See, I can hear my neighbor out there working, running stuff back and forth with their tractors. I regret not doing my compost this way 2 years ago. I would have way more viable dirt than I have now. Oh my gosh, this plastic is so hot, it's burning my hands. And so each bag of compost, or yeah. Each bag of compost and each bag of coffee grounds gets me like another gallon or so of dirt. And you know, food scraps and stuff. I was originally putting the food scraps way over here, which you can't see. That's okay. Gotta keep my anonymity. But that kind of kept the critters away because they would go over there and play in the food scraps. But it's made it really hard to get any usable dirt out of it. They can kind of just grow over there, which is fun, but not particularly useful. I definitely have a sense of feeling behind. The neighbors are definitely ahead of me, but that's to be expected. They have way more energy than I do, and they have way more tools and way more people. But at least it gives me something to. It's a really good motivator, I guess I'll say. Good motivator. But yeah, I feel like I need like 2 more people and a lot more money. Anyway. So let's see. I have the coffee grounds. over the wet stuff. That's like quite a good bit of material. And I just need to sprinkle some dirt on top of it. Usually Sunday is my no work day, but I'm feeling like pretty decent today. I think I woke up with a bug. There we go. Not bad. I woke up with a bug and then I slept for like 4 or 5 more hours. And then I felt a lot better. Let's see, so we can put potatoes in those, which is kind of what I want to do over there. And then we can put the tomatoes there and there. 1, 2, 3 things of tomatoes. I think it's way too late to put the tomatoes in, but I still want to try. Like I said, it's not too late. It's not too late to put potatoes in. I feel like I should these tomatoes are getting out of control. These tomatoes are getting out of control. Moving the tomato stems around without breaking them is such a bitch. Debating if I should water the tomatoes again. Yeah, that tree has got almost nothing left. But I don't know what we gotta figure out what to plant there. I guess I technically have 4 totes. 4 totes worth of dirt that I could plant things in. But I am already gonna get. Man, should I water this stuff? I feel like I should come back and water this stuff because it is going to be an absolute scorcher today, and some of these plants have already dried out. I should also go in the garage and get some clippy things. These wasps are just crazy. Just crazy. I'm feeling like really lazy right now. Let's check the. Oh yeah, the cucumbers are already hurting. If I've learned anything yet, now cucumbers grow really, really fast. Whoa. Cucumbers grow really fast, but they need like gallons and gallons of water. That is an interesting thing. Hello, bumblebee. This water's going to be about 1,000 degrees. Oh yeah. Cucumbers need massive amounts of water. On these hot days, I'm having to come out and water them during lunch because they're already wilting. Even if I just absolutely soak these totes. Alright, well, I officially have a second tote full of compost. I think it's interesting, one of those celebrity douchebag homesteaders, one of those fake homesteaders garden channels. They had an episode where they did a bunch of different tomato strategies side by side. They had the normal tomato, and then they had the tomato where they kind of sunk it in, and then they had the tomato where they started it sideways, and then they had a tomato that they just started in straight up compost. And the tomato started in the straight up compost sort of kind of worked, but not great. Oh, there's the AC. Too good to last. That's okay. And I think what that kind of told me was that oh man, that bumblebee is massive. I think it's called like hot composting or something. Like, it's not as bad for plants as they say, but it's not really that good either. It's kind of just like sort of in the middle. Like, you'll definitely grow a plant out of compost. It's just that it's going to take twice as long because it has to break down the compost before it's into a usable nutrient. It's not like immediately ready to be nutrientified. It's not like available nutrients. So it takes like twice as long. Whereas if you just use compost, like year-old compost, you know, or just normal fertilizer, then it's going to have nutrients that are actually ready to go. We have a cauliflower that we're just kind of playing around with for fun. We chopped the head off of it, threw it in the freezer, and it's actually starting a second one. What I don't know if it uses the leaves from the old one or not, but the leaves from the old one are still alive. I've just been slowly feeding them to the deer. Which seem to come every other night. I think an elk, the elk, must have come the other night because it like absolutely stripped like the branches of the apple tree down to nothing, anything it could reach, and it left like literally bear-sized shit all over the yard. And I think that's the one that ate most of my trees 2 years ago. Because it's the one that like ate through like these inch thick trees. I mean, I don't know, this thing must be a Hulk. I've only ever seen like the silhouette of it. It's massive. I'm watering the maters now, I guess. The maters are doing okay. You can kind of heat stress tomatoes a little bit, just not a ton. Anyway, I don't know if half of you give a shit about this or not. I think my viewership's gone down a little bit. There's still this other video I'm working on, kind of another how-to video, and it's something I gotta update bunker basics with also. But like seeing like a fresh turned up dirt makes the wasps and yellow jackets go crazy. And that is absolutely a bald-faced hornet. Gosh darn it. There's a bald-faced hornet nest. It's not super nearby, but it's just nearby enough to where I see one every once in a while. If you've never gotten stung by one of those things, it is one of the most painful things on the planet. They look like a gigantic black fly. It hurts so stinking bad. It makes a yellow jacket or a wasp sting seem like nothing in comparison. And they're just close enough to where I see one here every once in a while. And so I was working on this kind of a video for you guys. And I turned up some dirt to kind of work on the video. And all the wasps came to come check out the turned up dirt like they always do. And all the bees, they just love turned up dirt. They all showed up. One bald-faced hornet showed up and just starts manhandling the wasps like they're nothing. Just bullies the shit out of them. Just one. He took on like 10 wasps like it was nothing and just manhandled them. He would just grab it and just body slam it to the ground. Get up, grab another one, body slam it to the ground. And there was nothing they could do. And it eventually chased them all away. Just, I don't know, just like these things are like the alphas of the little buzzing asshole world. Um, I think I got like a little video of it, but it was just insane to watch this thing. Like I would take wasps all day long over just one of those. Um, I've been stung by them before. I thought it was a thorn getting stabbed into me. And then my friends teased me and stuff, but then they said, well, all nature has its place. I don't know. I don't know if bald-faced hornets actually have their place in the world. Um, they're ultra territorial. You don't even have to be doing anything. You just have. They're not like wasps. Wasps, like I'm sitting here just soaking the wasps down with a hose right now. They don't even give a shit. They don't even care. I don't even know what. I think they're up in the chimney again. They don't care. I'm washing them down. They sit there and they flutter on the ground and they get back up again. They don't care. If there was a bald-faced hornet nest here, they would be actively stinging me just from standing here. That's how ultra territorial they are. It's ridiculous. Um, it is impossible to coexist with those things, and they don't drink the water. I don't know what they drink, but they don't drink from the same water that the wasps and the yellow jackets do. So I can't catch them in water traps. Bumblebees. Oh, these bumblebees are just loving the cucumbers. Oh, that's so cool. Okay, I think that's enough water. Oh no, I gotta water the clover. So, yeah. So somebody around here has a bald-faced hornet nest problem, and whoever they are must be hating life. But I bet you it's in that forest over there. I think they're ground. I think they live in the ground too. But I'm just surrounded by wasps right now, and they're annoying. It's distracting. They're everywhere, but they're not bugging me. They're just looking at me. They're like, "Oh, hey, are you gonna?" The wasps are really happy that I'm putting more water out because every couple days I soak their main water area. And what the wasps really like, come on. What the wasps really like is when I put a bunch of water in these water trays with the clover, and they go hang out in the clover, which seems to be a good. Oh, they hang out in the strawberries too. I guess it's cool. It's cool in there. Of course, I just soaked them all, so they're mad at me. But they're just gonna fly back in a second. Um, these things do sting you. But only if they get like frustrated and upset from like being stuck in the house. Like if they get stuck in the house for too long, they'll sting you. Because I think they're starting to get cooked. Okay, so I've got a couple tomatoes left. So those tomatoes can go out. Also, I keep forgetting this, but you're supposed to fertilize your tomatoes a second time, and I have not done that yet because I ran out of shake and bake fertilizer. But I am going to sit down and cool down. Ooh. It is getting hot as shit. Dude, I was gonna record another Geeman rant, but I just kind of haven't been feeling like it. I would have had a really good one last night. Oh, that's right, I was supposed to prop that up somehow. I would have had a really good Geeman rant last night, but I don't know, maybe I just wasn't in the mood. I was having a really fun time. I guess it would have been really sad to rant. I don't have any twisty ties in here or anything. It's not a miscellaneous bucket. I was trying to strike up a conversation about some stuff regarding feds in groups, but I guess nobody wants to talk about that with me. I thought that would have been a really fun conversation to have with somebody. So I guess, unfortunately, ooh, that spider's huge. Dude, that is the biggest spider I've ever seen. Unfortunately, I'll just have to have the Fed conversation with myself, I guess. So that'll be part 2. Alright, welcome back. This is part 2 of the, of whatever we're calling this. I'm going to be picking taters. And I don't know if I've said this before, but it just kind of helps me have somebody to ramble to. It's kind of what like a lot of y'all missed when I deleted the videos of me working on the garage. Working in the garage. It just helps me. I guess this is a lot less crazy than me talking to myself. I mean, I mostly just imagine me talking to Birio and CDK, I guess, and there's a couple of other people that happen to listen, but I listened to part 1 of this and it didn't sound too bad. As long as I don't shuffle the mic around. I'm looking for my gloves and I'm gonna pick taters. So, oh, there's a bird. Bird, do you know where my gloves are? Also, I promise I didn't forget the topic. I think those are my gloves. I didn't forget the topic. There we go. I like to pick potatoes with gloves on in case the potatoes are rotten. Which is rare, but not that rare. So, upon further thoughts, I think there's 3 types of feds, quote unquote feds. When people talk about feds, the first kind are the informants, kind of aka snitches, and they do kind of what you imagine. They just sit there and scoop up all the it's hotter than hell out here. They scoop up all the juicy info. That's what the informants do. There's part 2, or there's group number 2, which I would call the enablers. Those are the ones that say we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Except they're never anywhere to be found. And you don't know what they're actually doing all day. I call those the enablers. And then there is the number 3, which I would kind of call the honeypots. And what they do is they try to actively sucker you into doing stupid things, or they're collecting specific info on everybody. Taters. I don't think informants are necessarily a problem. That being said, there's tons of them. Absolutely tons of them. Every group probably has informants in it. And normally I would say, if you're not doing anything wrong, you don't have to worry about it. If your group has got more than 7 people in it, one of those people is probably an informant. Or some kind of wannabe informant. Now, they're usually an informant for one of 2 reasons. Either they just are an idiot, or they're trying to get themselves out of trouble because they're a piece of shit. Either way, like I said, informants aren't necessarily inherently bad people, but they undermine any semblance of trust in the group. And you always got to be worried about everything being taken out of context. So you really can't say much, because even if you aren't doing anything wrong, they're going to twist it out of control, and then it's going to appear like you're doing something wrong even when you're not. And then if the informant feels like they found something, then you're going to get an enabler. And the enabler is going to make sure you have the methods and means to suddenly be able to do the no-no thing. So you're going to get some person around that all of a sudden magically has access to all the things that they think you need to go do the no-no thing. And then they entrap you. And then you got a Gretchen Whitmer on your hands. So, and then the honeypots, and this happened, I really hate using names. I don't want to use names. But the second I say any of these things, it's really easy to figure out who I'm talking about. But there's a certain company that has a merch store, and that merch store is connected to basically every single big gun tuber there is. And that has been the source of a lot of challenges for them specifically. And also, it's so hard to do this without just saying names, but I noticed all of the other YouTubers aren't saying any names either, so I'm not going to say any names, because I don't actually know what YouTubers they're talking about. So since I don't know what YouTubers they're talking about, I don't want to start throwing out names either, because I don't know. Anyway, blah blah blah. And I'm not saying they're wrong. I just don't. They're not really talking to me about it. So I'm out of the loop. But there's a bunch that I know too. And they get in trouble a lot. That spider doesn't look happy. They get in trouble a lot because when you sell gun tuber merch, gun culture merch, you know, being a part of the merch militia, not only do you attract a lot of attention from the feds, as I have outlined them, because they want your info on everybody that you've got, but you attract all the Looney Tunes too, all the people that want to live the life by just spending a little bit of money on the merch. This was a problem with the threeper groups. This was a problem with the proud Western chauvinists that don't apologize for the American way of things. They had a lot of people co-opt their merch, and there wasn't a lot they could really do about it. As such, a lot of people got mad at the threeper groups, and a lot of people got mad at the proud Western chauvinists that don't apologize for our culture. So, and then those groups got called feds, and the reality is that every prepper group has got informants. That is just it, period. So you have to figure out what you're going to do about that. You have to figure out basically how to coexist with feds as I've defined them. How you do that is a very thorough and rigorous vetting process that they kind of just don't want to deal with. Informants don't want to do any work. They certainly. I'll do a couple name drops like PNW Guerrilla. He goes on a lot of hikes, really long hikes. Feds, as I have defined them, are not going to want to do that. That is a lot of work. Not only is it a lot of work, but they're going up in the mountains with no cell phones, with a lot of heavily armed people. They can easily an accident. An accident could easily happen to them. It's a lot of work. They want to just sit at home. Damn, that spider is big and fast. Let's go to the other side of my little tote here. That's step one. Just go on. Your vetting process should involve a lot of long hikes in the mountains. They're not going to want to do that. They don't want to do anything that involves work, by and large. Don't think you'll find most of them do really particularly any gardening either. They also have access to way more things they should have access to, like I think I maybe already said. And there's just a different air about them. More taters. Where was I going with that? I feel like I'm going somewhere. like I'm going somewhere with all this. They'll want to go like shooting to a flat range, for example, and then they'll want to see what everybody's got. They'll want everybody to show their guns off a lot. They'll want to see pictures of everybody's safes, but they won't always like say it like that. They'll show a picture off a safe which may or may not even be theirs, or they'll have themselves posting with like a gun that you don't even really know if it's theirs. They'll just be posting with a gun. This happened a lot on Facebook with we call them ISIS, but they're gun bunnies, and now they're like these fake MAGA conservatives on Twitter, where there'll be some hot chick posting with a gigantic rifle, or maybe even training with a gigantic rifle. And I think even the threeper groups there at the end stopped letting gals into their groups because you couldn't trust them at all, that they weren't some kind of plant. And even if they're not feds as I've defined them, there were definitely times that I've heard of in Minecraft where there'd be a gal trying to get into the group. Maybe she wasn't necessarily a fed, but she was like a journalist. That's the thing about these prepper groups, is there's always journalists trying to get into them. Always. And that's a whole other problem. And I don't even really necessarily know how to breach that topic, except to say that they don't want to go on hikes either. That being said, Vice in the past has definitely gone down to the border with militias. There's actually a really good video on that, or Vice, a couple years ago, Vice went down to the border with militias, and I think it could have been handled a little bit better, but it actually wasn't that bad, I thought. That kind of goes back to like point number 2, which is, besides going on hikes and having a really long vetting process, just be boring. Don't say crazy shit. Don't say you're going to do crazy shit, and if they say they want to do crazy shit, you just distance yourself. No sane person, even if they're not a fed or informant, if they're just an insane person, you've got to just distance yourself from that for the safety of the group. I would hope any of you, if some lunatic said they were just going to do batshit crazy stuff, I would hope that you would be self-policing. I think that's what keeps prepper groups off the radar, is being self-policing. If someone said they were going to do some massive no-no thing, you gotta figure out what you're going to do there. I certainly wouldn't want to be a part of any group where somebody is saying they were going to do massive no-no stuff. There's a good chance the person is just a fed. Like I said, they're like an enabler fed. But there's also just a good chance that they're an actual just fringe lunatic trying to find other just absolute maniacs. So that doesn't. Go. That potato is very rotten. Rotten potatoes are just about the most disgusting thing on the planet. That's why I wear my gloves. But that doesn't mean that I would wear a wire to entrap the person or anything. I would definitely just uninvite them from everything. And if I talked to any other groups, I would tell all the other groups to not have anything to do with them, because they sound like a lunatic. Because what, best case they're a fed, worst case they're an actual lunatic? I would You just have to distance yourself from that stuff. There are actually just crazy lunatics out there. And it's kind of hard to differentiate, except usually the Fed boys won't get their hands dirty. Usually they're trying to enable other people to do it. Like, what was that guy's name? What was that guy's the guy's name at J6? Crap, I can't remember his name all of a sudden. But he was the one standing up there saying everyone else should do this and this and this and this and this. And everyone else should do. He was just massively inciting violence. And then when the day came, he was nowhere to be found, and he was the one guy that didn't go into the gulag for it. What was that guy's name? I can't remember his name. I can't tell if that's a potato or not, but I think it is. So, people like that guy, and I think even at that thing, there was people walking by go, "Oh, that guy's a Fed." And I mean, it turns out he was an informant in the past, I think. That was really weird. That whole situation was really weird. I can't find the rest of the potatoes. If there's more potatoes in here, I guess this might be really short. And then yeah, the honey pots. I'm not saying to not buy prepper merch. I'm not saying to go buy a hat from your favorite YouTuber. I think the risk is buying something that you think is funny from these like fly-by-night. Those still have a long ways to go. These fly-by-night pop-up merch stores that nobody knows. I have seen that a lot. So like when Orange Man's mugshot, seeing all these pop-ups from the Orange Man mugshots, I would have only bought one of those from like a reputable somebody reputable that's not some no-name that could just be collecting everybody's info. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. That's kind of like a big example. Or like, the fight t-shirts and stuff. I don't own one of those shirts, but if I did, I would have got it from somebody reputable. They're all getting it printed and drop shipped from the same place anyway. It's just a matter of some of those places are going to be harvesting your data. And then you're going to get put on yet another list. Especially if the t-shirt said that you were going to, oh gosh, that one's super rotten. Especially if the t-shirt said you're going to do some kind of no-no thing. I would be more careful as to where you got that t-shirt from, even if it's a joke. You do have a freedom of speech, but I would be careful of who I was ordering it from, in case it was a honey pot. So this is all this not to say to be paranoid as to who's in your group, but I would certainly be careful who you let in your chats. Big group chats and big FTXs are extremely risky, especially when they want to collect everybody's names and info, which they often do at FTXs. Usually there's a lot of groups scoping out the other groups and trying to poach each other's members, but there's going to be a lot of feds there, which, like I said, in and of itself is not a big deal as long as nobody's doing anything illegal. And that's the whole part about being boring. If you're not doing anything illegal, and if you're just hiking and camping and gardening, they're going to go away because you're super boring. They don't have the time. They don't have infinite resources. That's why they rely on informants so much, and the informants are going to get bored. Or sometimes you end up converting the informants, which is pretty funny. But then all of a sudden one day those informants disappear, and you're like, well, what the heck? We invested a lot of time in getting you trained up and you left us, you douchebag. And then you gotta be really suspicious when those people come back. This did not yield as many potatoes as I wanted. But I'm afraid to dig too deep because a couple of these potatoes still have not matured. But yeah, be boring. Don't do anything illegal. I think the people in your group, I think it's okay to do background checks on them. If they're going to be camping with your kids, if you're going to hand them your rifle to shoot, especially in states where that's pretty illegal, or at least quasi-illegal, depending on, like I said, depending on the state. You know, all of a sudden they show up with a binary trigger, and binary triggers are, you know, questionable in your state, or they show up with a 3D printed gun or 80% lower. You know, those things aren't necessarily illegal. But if all of a sudden they say something like, by the way, I'll sell you some unfinished, you know, and you're like, uh-oh. They're either a fed or they're really stupid. So, you know, you've got to do background checks on everybody. I think that's getting harder and harder when you don't know anybody's name. I guess you can go try to do a background check on Chance Paladin if you want, but you're not going to get anything. Unless you want to buy my book. But I think the days of like being able to easily backtrack everybody on Facebook is pretty much impossible. Whoops. I think I'm done with the potatoes. I think this is as good as it's gonna get. Which is okay. I can put more potatoes down, I guess, if I want to. Maybe I don't want to, though. Maybe I want to just let these all run their course. I can get half a tote from that, half a tote from that, a little bit from this one, and almost half a tote from this one. I'm going to put these potatoes in the shade, and I'm going to come back on water. Like I've said in bunker basics, you always put your potatoes in the shade. Do not let the sun hit your potatoes. They still need to dry out a little bit to get their hard shell, but you don't leave them in the sun. The sun turns them very gross. So anyway, that's kind of my spiel on feds. Like I said, most people don't mean actual federal employees. I think the likelihood of you having an actual federal employee is very small. And even if you did, unless they're the IRS, which that's a whole deal, isn't it? You see that shit about the IRS? Orange Man said that the IRS is going back up to full staff. Man, I don't like the sound of that. I still think a world exists where the IRS is going to get rolled over into the, what's that called? The digital currency. I'm checking my phone really quick to make sure it hasn't screwed up. I think it's still going. Let me check. Check. Yeah, so far so good. Cool. So I think a universe exists where all those IRS employees start working on the digital currency. That's a prediction I made a long time ago. Whoa. That's a prediction I made a long time ago, and I think it's still going to come to pass. To be clear, I want all taxes to be abolished, and the IRS to be completely closed down, and the Fed to be completely closed down. Alright, let's water some potatoes. Alright, I don't really know what my next topic was. Did I have another topic? Oh no, I guess I just want to summarize with the whole Fed thing. Just be boring. Be boring and have it involve a lot of work. That usually means a lot of hiking. If you want to do tons and tons of movement and cover and tactical drills, that's fine. Just don't do anything stupid like point your guns at each other. Don't do anything that would get you in trouble. I also want to say I think that's kind of easier said than done these days. I know one of the things that got everybody really concerned is that they keep trying to make training with, what was it, training with 4 or more people? They were trying to make that illegal. You know, you could go hiking, but you couldn't do cover and movement drills and stuff. That, you know, that militia law or whatever it was, I think that never got passed. But I would do research on that too. I know California has had like anti-militia laws for a long time where you couldn't train with more than 4 people. There's like a video of like a couple of years ago of like 30 guys out in the woods, and somebody didn't like it and called the feds on them, and they talked to them, which they shouldn't have done. They got into all kinds of trouble. That's yet another reason why I wouldn't go to like a joint FTX anymore. And you might be saying, "Oh, what about bug out weekend?" I think that's different, because bug out weekend, they're not trying to do joint field exercises. I also think that's why PNW Guerrilla stays to hiking. And I think he's been very, very, very clear about like, we are hiking, and I think that's good. I think that's safe. I think that's where you want to be. Now, if you want to do buddy team stuff, I think the safest way to fly under the radar and do buddy team stuff is to focus on neighborhood watch. Focus on what a 2-man neighborhood watch team would be like. And I think that's going to be your safest bet for flying under the Fed radar. If the Fed wants to get mad because you've got 2-man teams doing neighborhood watch, they're gonna have a lot of people to contend with, because almost every single subdivision has that now. And with how crazy things have been, you know, let's pretend you did get a Fed knock on the door and they're like, "Hey, we heard on your Facebook group or your next door group that you guys are patrolling the neighborhood. What's that all about?" First of all, you just don't talk to them, you know, because you don't have to talk to them. You know, just politely shut the door. I think the biggest mistake people make is, and I'm not a lawyer, but I think the biggest mistake people make is thinking that they have to talk to the feds. You should know that, you know, you're well within your rights to just not talk to them. There's never any good reason they want to come talk to you. And, you know, if you know all you're doing is just 2-man patrolling your subdivision and you're not bugging anybody, Karen's turned you in, the local subdivision Karen, I just wouldn't talk to them. because you know what, you know exactly what you're doing. And you know you're well within your rights. But if you're doing your 2-man subdivision patrols, you know, gray man enough, and you're just talking and waving and meeting and greeting people, the likelihood that anybody's going to turn you into the feds is almost zero. I know when I was on Nextdoor, I got together with a guy and tried to talk to him about it. And I thought me and him really hit it off. There was maybe like a 20-year gap or something like that. But I don't know, I must have said something, but he only wanted to get together like the one time, so I don't know if he was a Fed, or if he didn't like the age gap or something. But he only talked to me that one time, and he was getting ganged up on by the lefties like crazy. And what was funny is this was circa 2016, 2015, 2016. And Nextdoor was allowing the leftists to make as many groups as they wanted. That's when Indivisible got started, and all these other radical leftist groups. But I asked Nextdoor, I asked the admins if we could have our own conservative group just for neighborhood watch stuff, and they said no. They wouldn't let us have one. They said, if you have stuff to talk about, you can talk about it here out in the open with everybody else, which obviously was categorically not true. You couldn't. The leftists would dogpile you while sharing stupid memes about how they wouldn't let, you know, Christian groups come to their door. They would say horrible things to them. But they could have their private indivisible groups, all their private radical leftist groups, but you couldn't. We couldn't have a private security group. This is before Telegram. This is back when people were still, you know, when the best thing you had was like a Facebook, private Facebook chats, which obviously was anything but private or anything but secure, but that's all that really existed. In Discord, but Discord clamped down hard, and Discord also has the security of a wet noodle. So if Telegram had existed back then, we could have just had a Discord group, because there's probably like, I think 5 or 6 of us that were on the same page, and I was hoping this guy was going to help me, you know, get a group started. But we met one time, and he just never talked to me again. It's a real bummer. Then obviously I lost my house, and kind of none of that mattered. But 2015, 2016, I know militia groups existed like way before then. Way before then, obviously. But 2014, 15, 16, especially like after Baltimore, and I almost said George Floyd, the whole Zimmerman thing, like prepper groups, I say in air quotes, really just like went through the roof. Crap, I just realized I'm missing the 0 Hour podcast. I'm gonna go catch the 0 Hour podcast. I'm gonna water my potatoes really quick though. Maybe that's what I'll talk about next, is I'll start talking about the whole 2015, 2016 prepper group thing. Basically, the civil unrest got really bad, and everybody realized they were going to have to start forming groups if they were going to survive. And again, I mean, I think, to be clear, this is kind of like a natural forming groups is a natural evolution, but I think the groups that people were forming were too big. And I think a lot of these groups ended up realizing that 7 was kind of the perfect number. 6 or 7 is like the perfect group size. And I think having big group chats is just the worst. It's impossible to vet people. So yeah, I'm gonna go catch the 0 Hour podcast because I miss that podcast all the time. I love that show. I love that show. Anyway, I'm gonna keep. I don't know if I'm gonna chop this one off and upload it, or if I'm gonna keep adding to it. I feel like I've been doing these shows a little too much. I guess I'll wrap up really quick and say that I'm still working on my art book. After that cyan and orange and black level debacle, I've decided to actually rework a little bit of it to be way more concise. You'll see what I mean when it's done. It's going to actually be a lot cleaner. I'm actually taking a couple things out that I think were hurting the pacing a little bit. And I'm adding a couple more things that I think add a lot more fun context. So I'm going to go catch the 0 Hour podcast. If you like hanging out with me while I'm doing my yard chores, I think the audio is good as long as I don't mess with the microphone. Let me know. And if it's only 2 of you, if it's only CDK and Guerrilla, and if you two don't mind, I literally don't give a shit about anybody else. As long as you two listen to it. Everybody else can decide to listen or not listen, and that's really on them. It gets kind of old. Where's my... Oh, yeah. You know, all these other people, they keep coming and going, and they comment and they don't comment, and whatever. I can't control those people. I also can't stop everything to do podcasts. Like, now that I have this little lapel mic thing, there's so much damn work to do that I think this might just be the new format. So I'm gonna go inside and watch the 0 Hour podcast. Talk to y'all later. Come on.